Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. The Curse of Oak Island preview. The guys discover a tunnel at the bottom of the garden shaft. This week on The Curse of Oak Island, the team believes they've found the elusive tunnel at the bottom of the garden shaft. This must be the tunnel that stretches into the blob where the high concentration of precious metals is located. Last week, the Dumas Mining Company finally got to the bottom of the original working of the garden shaft at a depth of 82 feet. The plan was then to do some exploratory probing in the hope of hitting a secret chamber or tunnel. The bottom of the shaft lies just a few feet to the east of two areas nicknamed the Blob and the Baby Blob. Dr. Ian Spooner previously found through water sampling that these two areas contain so much gold, silver, and other precious metals that it's very likely a treasure is hidden there. The Baby Blob appears to be the most promising. It has an exceptionally high content of gold and silver, and is a very manageable size of only 20 feet by 20 feet at a depth of about 80 to 120 feet. When the guys did some exploratory borehole digging into the Baby Blob a few months back, they hit what they thought might be a tunnel heading toward the garden shaft. Oak Island team find the tunnel leading to the Baby Blob. Now, the team may have located the other end of the tunnel at the bottom of the garden shaft. A preview showed a smiling Scott Barlow telling the guys on his cell phone, "We found our tunnel." This is potentially seismic news as it means the Fellowship should be able to follow this tunnel to the treasure, and they have mining experts, Dumas, to carry out the work for them. Rick, Marty, and the team make a discovery below the garden shaft that could be the key to solving the Oak Island mystery. Is Lot 5 stone feature the hatch from Zena Halpern's Templar map? In the meantime, viewers can also expect the guys to continue excavating the strange stone feature on Lot 5. The circular depression of buried rocks piqued the guys' interest when they learned it had similar dimensions to the original money pit. A preview now suggests that the structure is far larger than the guys expected. Marty Lagina is overheard, stating, "It's quite a massive structure," and Jack Begley wonders if this could be related to Zena Halpern's map. "This could fit in with Zena's map, this could be the hatch," he remarks. Zena was an expert on the Templar Knights and had researched the possibility that the medieval order visited Oak Island. She discovered a map of Oak Island, which she suspected had been created by the Templars in the 14th century. The map showed multiple features, one labeled the hole under the hatch, usually referred to as the hatch. However, the guys have never been able to decipher its meaning. The sun was just beginning to crest over the treetops on Oak Island, casting a soft golden hue across the landscape as the familiar group of treasure hunters stood gathered around the entrance of the garden shaft. Marty Lagina, ever the skeptic but brimming with cautious optimism, leaned against a wooden post, studying the newly unearthed discovery with a furrowed brow. Next to him, Rick Lagina's eyes glimmered with the unshakable hope that had fueled his search for years. The rest of the team buzzed with excitement, murmuring amongst themselves, their voices low but filled with energy. "Guys, look at this," said Craig Tester, his voice steady but unmistakably eager as he pointed toward the opening at the bottom of the shaft. "It's not just a cavity, it's a tunnel." The words hung in the air, electric with possibility. A tunnel. After years of digging, drilling, analyzing, and theorizing, here was another piece to the centuries-old puzzle they had all been chasing. The discovery was like a spark, igniting a fire of excitement throughout the team. Gary Drayton, the metal detecting expert, was the first to climb down into the shaft, his gear jangling as he descended. "Blimey," he muttered under his breath. His torch beam cut through the dust and darkness as he crouched, running his hand along the wall of the tunnel. "This isn't natural. Someone built this." Marty nodded, his skepticism fading as he glanced at his brother. "We've been waiting for something like this." Rick's heart raced as he stood at the edge of the shaft, peering down into the shadows where Gary and Jack Begley had now joined Craig. The tunnel's entrance was jagged but unmistakably man-made, the wooden beams reinforcing the passage were weathered by time, but solid enough to stand the test of history. This could be it. Another layer to the mystery they had all sacrificed so much to unravel. "All right, lads," Gary said, looking up at the rest of the group still standing at the top. "Who's coming with me?" Without hesitation, Rick stepped forward, grabbing his gear. "I'll go." Marty gave his brother a sidelong glance. You sure? This tunnel could collapse any minute. We don't know how deep it goes or what's down there. Rick looked at him, determination etched into his weathered face. If this is what I think it is, we can't afford to wait. We've come this far. With a resigned nod, Marty grabbed his own equipment. All right, I'm coming too. Together the two brothers descended into the garden shaft, the damp air growing colder the further they went. The smell of wet earth and old wood filled their noses, an almost tangible reminder of the centuries of secrets buried beneath their feet. As they reached the bottom, Rick's torch flickered across the tunnel's entrance. It was wide enough for one person to crawl through, maybe two side by side if they squeezed. The beams that held it up were worn but sturdy, though their age made them feel like ghosts of the original construction. Jack handed Marty a small handheld camera to record the expedition into the tunnel. We've got to document everything, Jack said, a mixture of excitement and nervousness in his voice. If we find anything big, we want every second of it on tape. The camera's red light blinked on, capturing the moment as Rick knelt down to inspect the opening. It looks old, he muttered, running his gloved hand along the timbers. But this isn't a collapse. This was built with purpose. Marty's mind raced with the possibilities. Was this tunnel part of the original money pit? Could it lead to one of the many fabled treasure chambers? Over the years, Oak Island had offered so many tantalizing clues, but none as direct as this. If they were right, this could be the breakthrough they had been hoping for. One by one, they crouched down and entered the tunnel, the air growing thicker and more oppressive the further they went. The walls were close, and their movements were slow, the weight of the earth around them pressing in on all sides. This reminds me of those old stories, Craig said from behind, his voice echoing slightly. The stories of hidden passageways and booby traps. We need to be careful. Gary, ever the treasure hunter, kept his metal detector out in front of him as they crawled, the faint hum of the machine cutting through the silence. If there's anything metallic down here, we'll know soon enough. The tunnel twisted and turned, its path seemingly random, but the more they moved forward, the more it felt like it was leading them somewhere. The walls were smoother now, almost too smooth, as if shaped by human hands, and the faint sound of trickling water could be heard in the distance. After what felt like an eternity, the tunnel opened up into a small chamber. Rick was the first to stand, his torch sweeping the room. It was empty, no obvious treasure gleamed in the torchlight, but the walls told a different story. Symbols, faint but visible, were etched into the stone, worn with age but unmistakably deliberate. Look at this, Rick said, running his fingers over the carvings. This is old, really old. Marty stepped up beside him, inspecting the symbols. We've seen markings like this before, but never this deep. This might be Templar, or it could be something else entirely. Craig, standing at the back of the group, let out a low whistle. Whatever it is, someone went to great lengths to hide it down here. The room, though small, felt alive with history. Every inch of it seemed to pulse with the weight of those who had come before, those who had carved these symbols, built these tunnels, and perhaps hidden something of immense value. Gary's metal detector suddenly beeped, startling them all. He waved it over the floor near the far wall, excitement flashing across his face. We've got something.